Hey there, magical beings. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. This video is another video in a series of the Back to My Roots, and I think it's the fourth video. If you have not watched the other videos, do go over and check them out. But this one is one that I know I have not really heard anyone discuss or talk about, and I think it's really important. At least it was important for me in the beginning of my journey. So this is all about the voice, and the voice being a tool in magic. So let's just jump right into it. So I'm going to start with my experience and when I became aware that this was important, that my voice was important even in magic. So I don't want to start every video with, Christianity, what happened because as a result of Christianity, but it's the truth. But I'll get back to that further on in the video. So when I realized, I came into this awareness that, our voice is important and the way that we use it in magic is important, was in the beginning, and I've mentioned even in my last video and other videos that I used to be in a coven, and this was kind of where I got my experience of working with people, working with magic as a group. So prior to that, or even during that, we, when I say we, I mean my husband, because he actually was in a coven with me at the time. And he was someone, he's very philosophical. So because of him, we went to the OTO and experienced some rituals, and then other places like the Theosophical Society. So we got to experience what other ceremonial rituals would look like and how it's done. Even we would have watched videos of like Israel Regardie toning his words and speaking his, how he spoke, his rituals. So we had all of this awareness and knowledge. So I remember we were very brand spanking new, right, of actually being a part of the ritual, like in a private setting, in a private group, in a coven. And each coven has their tradition and the way that they do things. So we were in there and we were familiar with the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, right? Because if you're anybody in the occult, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. So we were like, okay, we know what this is. There were other parts to the ritual, right, that we had to still learn, right? And we didn't even at the time, we didn't know, from memory, the lesser banishing ritual or the pentagram. So we were just kind of like going along, going through the motions with the group, because that was like we were very beginning. So I remember our first, the first circle, they went through, they started speaking, the ritual, and this was like blah 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 blah, right? So it's just like they're going through the motion, and my theory on this is that it was because, right, there was no harmony. At least in my opinion, it could have been like harmonious in the way that they did things, but. It wasn't nothing wrong with it. It was just maybe because we've had the experience of how it was done other places, maybe our expectation. But when we got home after that experience, I wasn't thinking anything of it. I was like, you know what? I'm learning. So I remember my husband said to me, he was like, that's not quite how I recall it going. He said there was, what? Now that I'm thinking about it, the word that I would use now, the soul, right? The soul of it was not there because there was no true toning and vibrating, right? Because that even gives, you have patience, right? There's no rushing through. There's really sitting with the seasoning and the soul of that ritual, right? And so he was like, it wasn't, he said it felt rushed because he was used to the toning. So, after that, I remember he was saying that, and he was like, yeah, let's watch Israel Regardie do, speak it. So we listened, and, it was just like, okay, we know there's a big difference. So from that experience, I realized that the voice matters. The voice is a part of the magic. And when I say voice, I don't mean the words that you are actually speaking, right? That's obvious, but the voice and the way it tones and the way it vibrates and the way that it carries the notes of the words, right? Because your voice is a sign of what is happening. So if there is something in these unconscious places that, right, maybe you had a bad day, right? This is why there's preparation. And this is why, when you just jump into magic, when you just jump and sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to do this candle and I'm going to speak this intention. When they say it's all about your intention, it's not. There's other things that go with it. Because your intention can be, right, at the forefront in your conscious, your intention can be one thing. But in those unconscious places, and I speak about this all the time, can be something that is going to come against what it is that you are wanting to happen. And especially if you had a bad day, you're carrying this negative energy, it's going to affect the magic. So there's this preparation time that's necessary for you to get to the place to do that magic. And this will your voice is a telltale sign of this, right? So if you're coming from a place of a negative day, the toning and the energy, the soul, that's what we're going to call it, the soul and the seasoning in that voice isn't there. And that affects the magic. That shifts the way the magic manifests. So this was something that I really, really paid attention to. And this is not spoken about enough. So the other thing later on in my journey that I began to realize after becoming more experienced was because of how, going back to the Christianity, because of how I was raised, right, in Christianity, especially for women, our voices, we were not able to be expressive, right? Because if so, you were the harlot. You were Jezebel. So if you were if you were expressive in any kind of way, right? You were a sinner, right? So this dimmed your voice, this dimmed your light, this dimmed the way that you express yourself, right? Because you wanted to do one thing, but you were told that that was evil or bad. So knowing this, I had to learn how to be expressive, how to express my voice, how to be okay with being heard. And I know this is true for a lot of women because when I started really diving into Venusian practices, Venus, you have to be really comfortable with pleasure and pleasure like for yourself. And one of the ways that I had to, like, I realized that my voice still was dimmed was like there's a few practices, but like one of them was when you stare into the mirror and you got to look at yourself and you speak these words. So that's when I realized like I was choking up and I wasn't really speaking like with confidence. There was still something that needed to be broken and released in the way that I expressed myself through voice. As a woman, and I can't speak for men, but I know as a woman and having had my voice dimmed, even it was difficult I had to learn how to lean into pleasure because I wasn't, you feel like things are evil. So your voice is an expression, right? You express yourself. This is one of the ways that you express yourself. And if it is dim, that means you feel like you can't express yourself fully. That is going to affect all that you do, actually, especially your magic. It's like a instrument, right? You have to, it's almost, since we're talking about seasoning, right, and soul, right? Imagine you're cooking something and you put no seasoning on it, right? It's gonna be, you can eat it, it's edible. Well, edible, I'm not really sure about that, right? But you can eat it. But it tastes a lot better, and it gives it soul with some seasoning. It brings the flavors out, right? It makes it more pleasurable. So these are saying, this is like, shake some seasoning on when you speak, right? And I'm talking about in magic. Maybe you need to put a little seasoning on your words too when you speak overall. But in magic, when we are wanting to manifest something, when we are wanting to speak things into existence, it's not going to be, you can't be like, I thank you, Spirit, for this day. I thank you for protection. I thank you for the things, and then I would like, if you could please send me some money, or please send me some help. Does that sound like, that is not, that frequency ain't going nowhere. You really need to tone, like, call Spirit and have an indignation. Shake some seasoning on those words and speak it with confidence. So if I had to tell someone beginning their journey in the magical realm, I would definitely put this on the top 7 things that is necessary for you to proceed in magic. Is necessary for you to really focus on, because there's some people that even are experienced in magic but are unaware that their voice isn't at its full capacity. Their voice isn't expressed enough. Even, I'm not even going to say mine is at its full capacity, right? Because I'm still growing and still learning, but at least I'm aware and I'm focusing on, expressing that. So it's all about awareness. Once you are aware of something, once it's seen, then it can be worked on. But I this is why I wanted this to be a part of my Back to My Roots videos, because this is one of the things that I learned as a beginner that is very important to have as an understanding, that it should be a part of your toolkit, right? So that is what I want to share with you. The importance of this voice, and the importance of the way that you speak, the importance of toning, right? You hear the barbarous tongue. Even when I just speak, even when there's an emotion behind it, right? So that, just think about when you cook food and you're seasoning it, think about that same concept when you are creating a spell, or you're writing an incantation, or you're writing a petition. Think about if it's seasoned enough. So that was all that I wanted to share with you today. And if you are somebody that this resonates with, and you've had this experience and you had to learn how to express yourself, or let your voice be heard, or speak loudly, right? And not care if someone hears what it is that you're saying, and not care if someone hears you praying, right? Let me know your thoughts on that. So until the next video, come on over and check me out on the Magic Alchemy Circle over on School. The link is in the description of this video. But until the next video, I love you all, and into the shadows.